Welcome everybody out there in Twitch land. My name is Carlos A.S. Lising, and my special guest tonight is the inimitable Sarah Dahlinger. Sarah, how you doing tonight?
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome to caslTawk. I am so happy to have you here. I've been wanting to do this for such a long time. For
This is
all
gonna
of
be
you
good.
out there that are watching this show tonight, Sarah is one of my dearest friends out there in the art world. She's a casl entertainment artist officially now. I am pleased to announce we'll be talking about that here in a little bit. But Sarah, welcome to caslTawk. Are you doing good tonight?
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. This is really gonna be really fun.
Oh man, yeah, I think it's going to be a blast too. Um, Sarah, we're going to introduce you right now to those fans out there who really don't know you very well. Okay, Sarah's an nominated RPG artist with a background in 2D and 3D mediums. She's created art for companies like Paizo, Monty Cook Games, Chaosium, and she's the illustrator of beloved titles like Atlas Animalia, which she was ENEA nominated for. Sarah, you're a G. I mean, you're one of the leading lights out there in the RPG industry right now, and one of the new wave people. So I'm really excited about that. Uh,
Thank you.
Sarah, what do you think about the RPG world as far as being an artist actually involved in it?
I gotta say, especially because I do a lot of work for Monty Cook right now,
Hmm.
people are so creative. Like the amount of prompts that I get, that's just amazing. Like I'll look at something and they also get me too. Like I'll look at it and be like, "Oh, that's disgusting. I can't wait to make it." Or, "Oh, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard of. I can't wait to draw it." And and they'll like I'll get it and they'll be like, "Can you put like more teeth on it or like put tentacles on it and teeth on the tentacles?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes I can." And it's just super fun to be able to do that as my job. Like it's kind of one of those things where every once in a while you think about it and you're like, today I'm going to wake up and I'm going to make this dog monster with a face that opens up and tentacles that shoot out of it. And then there's going to be like lightning and magic and stuff all around it. And then I get to do it tomorrow. And it's pretty cool.
For those of you out there who are watching our show right now, you will notice that tonight is episode 7 of caslTawk. And this is, I billed Sarah as the Mistress of Monsters. And now you know why. For I want to take care of a little bit of performa out there right now for everybody that's joining us today. I have a couple very important messages I'd like to relay out there to everybody out there that's watching us on Twitch. First of all, thank you so much for tuning in for us. We're gonna have a great show tonight. There's a lot going on right now in the world, and I think that RPGs are and art are welcome respite from that. I think it's kind of one of those things that I think sometimes we all need a little bit of a break from reality. And fortunately, we have a hobby here that we all share that is one of those things that can give us that kind of a break. But first, I want to talk a little bit about a group called Tabletop Events. For those of you out there who don't know about tabletop events, if you've ever been to a convention before, there's a group out there, a company called Tabletop Events. And what their job is they run a website that is basically convention management. What they do is, if you've ever bought a badge, they have a big database for it. They have all the games listed there that you can play, and they basically make it easier for convention managers and their staff to actually manage their events. It's a huge undertaking. Without them, the onus of management on these different convention and event organizers would just be onerous. It would be massive. Um, but because of what's happened in recent events with coronavirus, a lot of conventions out there, if not all of them in America, I would imagine, have been canceled. It's been a huge impact on the industry, and tabletop events has taken the brunt of that. That's their bread and butter. It's what they do, and without that, unfortunately, they're almost having to close up shop right now. It's a real bad situation, and what I want to do is I want to bring a little bit of attention to it. For those of you out there, you'll notice I just put up a graphic. You can join a group called Facebook.com and on tabletop event champions on Facebook, and by doing that, you can get involved. For example, my company Castle Entertainment, we're going to be donating some adventures to them for a giveaway, hopefully that they're going to be doing. Um, That's a way that you guys can get involved. This is the kind of group that we want to save. And they're a very big boon to our industry. Um, the guys that run it, they're very nice people. I just want to make sure that everybody knows a little bit about them. And they're running an event here, and I'm going to throw up another graphic very quickly here. And that's called the Con of Champions. What they're doing is they're running an online convention, and it's kind of a fundraiser slash online convention. If you want to get involved in that, run a couple games, or even just play in them, um, I think it would be very good. It may help them keep the lights on a little bit longer, and it'll make your convention. It's not like you're not going to get anything out of this. It's going to make your own convention experience a lot better by keeping these guys in business. Um, so I just wanted to bring a little bit of light to those guys before we went on, and we kept we got on with Sarah right now. Do what you can to support these people. I know money's tight right now, and I know that there's a lot of competition out there for everybody's dollar. It's a scary time and everything, but if you do have a little bit that you can give up to somebody right now, it's a pretty worthy endeavor right now. Speaking of which, and other people that we can give a little bit of money to for some worthy endeavors, right over here is my Patreon right over right now. But I don't want you to give a dime to me. Right now, I want you guys to know that my Patreon is free for the month of April, okay? So if you guys are interested in Greyhawk, interested in some 1E stuff, or just have been curious about what I do, and you're like, I don't want to put the cash commitment into it or whatever, everything you want guys get will be free this month, okay? For digital rewards. Physical rewards are still going to cost money, obviously, but digital rewards are going to be free. So I encourage you to sign up, see what we're all about. Get a little feel for us, and it's not going to cost you a dime. So that's just my gift to the RPG industry, and all you fans out there that supported me and who have supported our hobby. I just think it's a really cool thing that I'm in a position right now where I can give back a little bit. And if you're locked up right now, hey man, that's something you can enjoy. And finally, the last little bit of business like that I'd like to show is my friend Sarah Dahlinger's Patreon. Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your Patreon?
Okay, yeah, and also thanks for showing that too. So my Patreon right now, I'll get the sticker thing over with. So this month, up until April 11th, I'm running a sticker giveaway. So if you sign up and it's any tier, like because of the virus, I went with pay what you can afford. So if you sign up at any amount of money, it's 3 or over, you get a sticker, and I'll mail it to every single Patreon, like every single patron will get a sticker after if you sign up by April 12th. And the focus of my Patreon is my new book, Zero Drag Murder Mouth, Alien Sharks and More. And what this book is it essentially it mutated. So what it was, and I guess this is typical of me. So what it was I wanted to make a portfolio that showed that I could do 2D concept art all the way to 3D ZBrush sculpts. And then I, because it's me and I can't help myself, I started adding story to it. And then I started adding more story to it. And then I got to the point I was like, oh, each chapter will have a different alien scientist, and and it'll be written in like first person in that scientist's point of view. And then they will go through describing the creatures and adventures they have when they go to the planet to like study. So essentially it would, if we're going to make it in like terms of what happens here on earth, so if like a scientist went to Africa to study elephants, this would be like an alien went to this far off planet to study walrus monsters with spikes coming out of their heads. So that's kind of how it will work. And it's written in the point of view of the scientist as it goes on. And what I wanted to do is have this book be the unofficial statements of these scientists. So it's not like, an actual scientific paper. It's like them in their own words being like, and then these Wendigo looking guys jumped out of the the snowbanks and tried to stab me, and I fell through the ice, and then there was this monster with a like alien worm sticking out of its head and stuff like that. So that's Zero Drag Murder Mouth, my new project. And right now it's only funded by my Patreon. So it's just $3 a month or more if you can afford more. And it helps let me get the funds to make that book.
I want everybody out there to know a couple things about Sarah and Zero Drag Murder Mouth, as well as what she just said. Um, I believe very strongly in Sarah's talent. Obviously, it's why she's here on the show tonight, and why I'm profiling her in particular. And I also believe very strongly in Zero Drag Murdermouth. I have personally pledged on her Patreon. I think I'm at the $20 mark for a long time now, a month. You're actually I think the person that I pledge the most to in
Oh, thank you.
Patreon. So again, this is a project I really strongly believe in. I wouldn't put money towards it if I didn't. And I've seen a lot of the concept art for it. And if you guys ever go to Sarah's Facebook page, you'll be able to see the same thing. It looks amazing. It's something I really think that you guys would really get a kick out of. Even if you're just interested in D&D, um, this is a gold mine of ideas for conceptualization, for ideas for new monsters. It's just something I think that you guys would really get a lot of value out of, to the point that Sarah and I think I'm going to break a little bit of news right now. I have
Yeah.
personally told Sarah that Castle Entertainment, we've only got a little bit down the road on this so far, but when my schedule opens up, I'm interested in writing a Zero Drag Murdermouth game adventure to support the book. As far as just, giving her a little bit more of a profile as far as that goes. I mean, I think you outshine my profile as it is, but uh, every little bit I can give to you and to the project, I think is worthwhile because it's really something I believe in.
I'm so excited for that. Like super excited to be able to play, like,
Oh, I am
with
too.
like some stats and like an actual adventure. Like,
Well, the
oh, it's
thing
gonna be
I'm
so good.
excited about, Sarah, mostly is I can't wait for the brainstorming session where you're telling me, hey, listen, this is what this guy can do, and this is what this thing can do, and maybe you could put this in there because you're so creative and you're so passionate about these monsters and things like that. That's the part I'm excited about, is I think that's gonna just be badass.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I've got so many ideas for the deep sea chapter. It's like it's gonna be good.
To quote Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys, "You got a million ideas you ain't even rocked yet."
I love it.
So, getting back to business about the interview, and we'll get into the Zero Drag Murder Mouth a little bit more deeply in your own D&D experience, but I want to talk about art in general, okay? And for those of you out there who don't really know technical terms or anything, feel free to join in on the chat. Uh, throw some questions out there to Sarah. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. For those of you out there, you mentioned something called ZBrush. Could you tell us a little bit about what ZBrush is in 3D?
Oh yeah, ZBrush is one of my favorite programs. So
Okay.
it essentially is digital sculpting.
Okay.
So you load up what looks like just like a sphere, like a gray little sphere, and then it has basically brushes that simulate sculpting tools. Like, like if you were going to sculpt in clay.
Right.
And when you touch your brush against that little ball of digital clay, it acts like you're sculpting clay. It's really amazing to watch it
Wow.
actually happen. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm amazed that they were even to make a program that did this.
Hmm.
But it's digital sculpting, and you can get phenomenally detailed on it, because if you're looking, they don't use polygons per se. I think I think they're called pixels. But like if you're in a video game, you only have so many polygons per character, and then it
Right.
starts getting bogged down.
Hmm.
ZBrush found a way to like work around that, so you can make these. You can put skin pores on creatures. Yeah, that's how detailed you can get with this. So it's just like working in clay. It's really great.
The only program I've had any experience with that kind of level of detail is something like Blender, where you can do a little bit of things like that with it. I've noticed as far as animation goes, but that's totally sounds amazing. I've never even heard of anything like that before. It's almost like I mean, what's the next step? Like using VR or something like that to be able to actually use your hands to actually
They have
sculpt it?
that. They do. They have it
Oh my
now.
God. I should have
Yeah.
known.
Yep. I don't think you can get quite as detailed as you can using ZBrush, because the VR stuff's newer, but they do have that. I have a friend, Seth, who works in the entertainment industry, and he does a lot of like like trucks and vehicles and stuff like that. And he actually like in virtual reality is like, I'm gonna stick the wheels on, and it's just incredible how we're going.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'm getting a couple um, questions for you out here from our audience. My good friend, probably one of Castle Entertainment's biggest backers, and an all-around good guy, Gaetano. Uh, Sarah, what would you say your influences for the style of art you create are? Are they books, comics, movies? What is it?
Oh, so I'm super nerdy. It's biology. Yeah, it's it's the natural world. I went as a little kid. My mom had this gray black and white TV, and the first thing I learned to turn on the little dials at like 3 years old was PBS, and I would watch nature documentaries, and I
Wow.
never grew out of it. So I've seen like every nature documentary I think that the BBC has ever made multiple times, and then also, so that's my core, and the fact that I did a ton of hiking and camping as a kid.
Right.
So I was like always outside anyways. And then around junior high, I discovered the fantasy section in Barnes and Noble. And and I was reading and I was like, what are all these other monsters? Because I knew like, dragons and unicorns and stuff like that. But I when I cracked open the monster manual, the Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 monster manual for the first time,
Right.
it was like
Exactly. Oh, it did the
and
same thing to me. It blew my little mind when I was a 7-year-old kid doing that with the first Monster Manual. I know exactly where you're coming from. Um,
uh,
something about your uh, I I should mention right about now that I used another connection that you and I have is I used to manage a Barnes and Noble. So that's
oh really?
yeah, I did. So um, a little bit going back about the art thing. Dungeons and Dragons, and I think you segued into this perfectly just now. Part of the enduring appeal of Dungeons and Dragons throughout history has been the monsters. It's been the art. Um, it's but I think it goes culturally a little deeper than most people actually think, because what's ended up happening through the popularity of Dungeons and Dragons is this art that has informed the dreams of kids that have grown up and become novelists or become artists. It has almost created its own mythology, in a sense, a modern mythology. I mean, we now have kind of a base idea of what a gorgon looks like.
Yep.
50 years ago there was nothing like that. We if somebody says something like, "Hey, there's a Medusa out there." I know where my mind immediately goes. I go right to that picture of the monster manual. Um,
Hmm.
Before that, maybe who or not even before that, but I guess in pop culture, everybody would go to like Clash of the Titans or something like that before then, or concurrently, I guess I should say. So I think that art is such a huge component, actually an inexorable component of the game and its history and what it does to has actually done to our culture. I don't think people really give that enough credit. Um, so I think more than anything, let's start at the beginning with you. You've talked a little bit about your childhood. I want to talk a little bit about your background as an artist. You're now an accomplished professional illustrator. You've got a huge bibliography. Um, let's. When did you fall in love with art?
I think I always was kind of. I think a lot of artists kind of always are in love with art,
Hmm.
but I got really into it around junior high, like around 11 or 12 years
Hmm.
old was when I would just kind of start drawing like every day. Like I had two loves. It was soccer and art.
Okay.
So I would play soccer after school, and then I'd come home and I'd do my homework, and then as soon as I finished my homework, I was drawing dragons. And then I want to say it was about eighth grade that I started making up my own monsters, and that was when I started like the little inklings of like pulling from my love of like the documentaries that I'd watched, and it was all like the exercises you do nowadays. Like if you're gonna teach someone creature design, they usually say like combine two things. So I was like this little 13-year-old girl, and I was like, yeah, what if I made a pig crocodile? I want to see what that looks like, and 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 I gotta say, my parents were the best. Like, they'd be like, that's a beautiful pig crocodile, honey, and and
They let you color outside the lines, though. I think that's
oh,
awesome.
I had a discussion with my mom recently about how much I appreciated that they let me do that, because so many people would be like, "Ooh, I don't know," but my parents always encouraged me, and like, they didn't actually really push me. They just encouraged me to explore and keep doing what I was doing, and it led to here, which I'm really glad that it led to here.
Yeah. As a we've been friends for a long time, and I know you. I like to think halfway well. Okay. I just went through the entire gamut in my mind. For those of you out there who know me or watching the show, you know I'm a jock. Um, I thought to myself, very first thing is striker. No, wait, midfielder. She's way too agile for that. And then I thought to myself, actually, no, she's a defender because she's hardcore. What did you play? I'm curious.
Okay, so you did it reverse.
Oh, you went
I
okay,
I ended at striker.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I got meaner as I got older. Yeah.
It happens to the
So
best of us, Sarah.
right, right. So I was a defender, and I did okay with that. And then I have a good, or back in the day, I had a good amount of endurance, so they're like midfield for that kid.
Uh,
And then they were like, "Can you just like be bloodthirsty and attack the keeper?" And I was like, "I can do that." And then I ended up with striker for 2 years, and that's
that's
how I finished
awesome.
up. Yeah.
That's awesome. As a hockey player, I started off as a goalie, and I was too small though. As the kids got bigger, I started giving up too much net,
Oh
and my
yeah.
coach was telling me, you're way too good of a skater to be a goalie because I was played back in the day when they put the fat kid who couldn't skate in goal.
Yeah.
I just liked it because you got to handle the puck so much. But he's like, "Why don't you play center?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So that's how I ended. So I kind of went like you did. I started at the back end and moved my way up front. Although I never stopped at defense. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I was like this like horrible little savage up front. They'd be like, "Make sure that keeper has like the worst day of her life," and I was like, "Can do, coach."
Well, I bet you were. I bet you were just miserable to play against with balls in the air. I bet you were miserable.
Oh yeah, I loved when they were in the air though. Oh, it was the best. It was absolute best.
Knowing you as well as I do, like I do, I was just imagining. Oh, you must have been just a terror.
Oh,
Um,
it was that's like a gift. You see that go up in the air, and you're like, "And it's my time."
yeah, we all being so small, I had my own special abilities too. I was a face off guy because I was so close to the ice. It was easy for me to
Oh,
just
okay.
take draws left, right, and center. But going back to your art a little bit before I go to jock jams on everybody here because I could literally talk about this all night too. This will become go from casl talk to ESPN talk. But uh, Sarah, one thing you didn't mention about that I think is really important about your background as an artist. Tell me a little bit about you being a scientific illustrator.
Oh, yeah. So that is an interesting story, and I fell into it by mistake. So, I busted up my arm really good, and
Your
as part
drawing
of
arm or
my
your not non-drawing arm?
my drawing arm, I actually
Oh,
couldn't draw for 2
oh,
years.
oh,
Yeah. So, I did my rehab, and part of like finishing rehab was I couldn't draw for too very long. So I just started to go drawing at the zoo because I like the zoo and the zoo's fun. And so I'm drawing at the zoo, and then one thing leads to another, and the kid that's watching all the animal documentaries, so then I'm like, oh, I wonder what the anatomy is doing here. And then I started doing anatomical drawings, and then one thing led to another, and then someone on Twitter, I don't even remember who it was like, oh, I really like your scientific illustrations. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, yeah, sci art, sci com, all that sort of thing. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so then I looked around, and I found the Guild of Natural Science Illustrators, GNSI, and I joined them. And then I started getting put into contact with universities and other companies that I can't name right yet. And we're doing illustrations for them. So I fell into doing scientific illustration because I love anatomy.
okay. Well, your sense of anatomy when you look at books like Atlas Animalia, right over here, I've got a copy for everyone that's never seen Atlas Animalia over here before. Okay, you'll notice over here that we have an Arctic displacer beast and an Arctic owl bear. Part of the whole conceit of the book over here is that you've got all these variant creatures, and I actually think now that I just noticed it, I just saw the tail of a remoraz. I think it. Oh, it's a skeleton of a remoraz. But in any case, the conceit of this book is variant creatures of depending on different biomes and environments, and I think it's really cool. Your sense of balance, your sense of weight to these creatures, you can tell that you've got a background in scientific illustration because these are creatures that work. Okay, it's great to have monsters that are fantastic, but I think for those of us who have a little bit of a background in science, or some of us that are dungeon masters that are posed some questions every once in a while by players like, how does this do this? It's great to have something like your drawings and your art in here, where I can tell my players, well, it's funny you should mention that because it can do that because it does this. So your scientific illustration, your background in it, I think is really cool. What kind of education, formalized education, do you have in art?
So I went to UMass Dartmouth, and I got a BFA in back then it was called electronic imaging. I graduated in 2006,
Okay.
and now they call it like multimedia imaging. It was like this broad base. They kind of didn't know what they were doing. It was like a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of 3D animation, a little bit of 2D animation. Then when I got out, I realized that I really loved the 3D characters. So I went back to school at the CDIA at BU and got a certificate in 3D sculpting and animation. And I did that for a while. And then I went and did video games for 2 years after that.
Right.
And let's see, right. And then I took the Scott Eaton online class for artists for humans. Absolutely phenomenal. And then I did Terrell Whitlatch's online class for creature anatomy too. And I gotta say, those two classes back to back, oh man, if you're an artist and you want to up your anatomy game, it's like you take those two classes, you work hard on them, and all these doors are gonna open up. They are awesome.
That's
So that's
fantastic. That's great advice for everybody out there who is interested in following maybe in the art footsteps a little bit of Sarah. Although those are some pretty big footsteps to fill. Um,
just
Sarah,
one step at a time.
I do have to mention when I was looking at your educational background because obviously I cyber stalk every single one of my guests extensively in order to make sure that I know everything about you, all the way down to your social security number.
Oh no.
Before you come on, I uh, I saw your degree at at UM Dartmouth, and I immediately had education envy from my little BA that I have at Bowling Green. So I saw that I was like, "Oh, she's Dartmouth educated. Oh, wonderful." So, what when did you actually have the guts? Because okay, this is another big, huge barrier for people. I know for myself, for example, I just mentioned my educational background. The reason I want to mention that is because I graduated with a BA in creative writing at Bowling Green. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to write the great American novel at some point. You know, I'm going to do I'm going to write whatever. I had a minor in with a concentration in Russian poetry. But I ended up becoming an engineer basically. And I'm interested to know only in like the last 2 years. Castle Entertainment's been around for about a year and a half now. Only in the last 2 years, and I'm 50 now, did I actually have the guts to make the leap to become a full time, well, not full time, but a professional writer. I think it's a huge cognitive leap for people to make. It's scary. When did you make that call that you were going to go full time as being an artist, a freelancer? You're going to basically sing for your supper. You're going to believe in your talent, and you're just going to go with this. And why did you make that decision?
So that's almost like a two-part answer. So when I graduated from college, I was going to be an artist in some form. So um, I worked doing image editing and like these kind of like little 3D animations for a travel company at first.
Uh
Then
huh.
I went into video games, and then I went into medical. So I was always like some sort of artist. And then after, like I mentioned, I hurt my arm. After the rehab on that, I had saved a bunch of money during the rehab. And I just kind of was like, it almost felt after not being able to draw for 2 years that I got a second life.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can't waste a second life. And when you can't draw for 2 years, like with me, if I put my like, I'm very like focused. I nose to the grindstone, making things happen.
Is that
And I
so?
was,
I would have never noticed.
I know, right? No, it's not. So like, but the problem with that is you kind of get blinders on
Mhm.
for a little bit. And I was like going like, I'm gonna do video games, and then when I hurt my arm, and this was when the recession went too, so my game company went under. I hurt my arm like 2 months after that, so I didn't have any connections in the video game industry anymore. And I was kind of looking around, and I was like, okay, I have my second life here. What am I gonna do? And for me, the answer was easy. It was like always like do the thing that your 12-year-old self will always wanted you to do. And for me, that was always making creatures and monsters. And by that time, I was so fortunate enough to have met some other creature artists at this time. And I was like, I'm gonna do what they do because that's always what I wanted to do. And in when like in earlier years, I didn't know that was a job you could have. And as soon as I learned that I could have that job, I'm like, second life, creature designer, boom.
Right.
And
Um,
that was 4 years ago now.
I got to be honest with you. There's a person right now out in our chat. He's a dear friend of mine. His name is Lamashtu. And Lamashtu, I was just kind of dipping my toe back into the online Greyhawk community. And I had come up with this idea for a book that I was going to write. It was just going to be my love letter to RPGs. And I think at that point in time, I had thought I'm going to make like a 17-page source book or something, just something to publish anonymously, whatever. And my friend Lamashtu, he actually convinced me, hey, what you're doing here is really cool. It's a worthwhile project. His encouragement and support is sort of why I'm here right now, doing Castle Entertainment. He's emailed me a couple times the last couple days, and I've been so busy right now. Lamashu, I'm sorry I haven't emailed you back. I plan on, I promise. But I did want to tell him right out there in the crowd, thank you so much for that early support, because without this, I wouldn't be kind of living my dream. And you're a big reason why I'm able to do that. So thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it. Um, Sarah, going back, everybody is here because of D&D. We love art, we love you, but my fans here out there, we love D&D. You've been an RPG player for a lot of your life. Okay, it partially contributed to your interest in monsters, as you mentioned before in the Monster Manual. Tell me a little bit about your first experience with D&D. When did you start playing? What were your first experiences like?
All right, so it took me till college,
Okay,
but it wasn't for lack of trying.
okay.
So I had a friend, my neighbor friend, had found like I want to say it was second edition in her
Oh,
basement,
mhm.
and the two of us read everything, and we were trying to go around, and we were like in like we were trying to peddle D&D in our neighborhood. And we were like, come on guys, let's play this game. And everyone was like, no, you two weirdos, we're not playing this game with you. Like, so it didn't work out. So then college rolls around, and
And
when you're,
everybody's a weirdo.
oh right, it's amazing because I went to art school, so but I get my randomly assigned freshman roommate, and
Okay.
she calls me up, and she has an agenda. She's like, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna scare this girl off because I'm gonna tell her I play D&D with my boyfriend every weekend. So she calls me up to scare me off, and she's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm another artist, blah blah blah. But just so you know, me and my boyfriend play D&D every weekend." And I was like, "Oh, can I join your group? I've been trying to play D&D for years."
And there was this dead silence over the end of the phone for about 30 seconds, wasn't there?
There was, there was, and she's like, and then eventually they were like, okay. And we just played D&D last week. Like we still play together.
My buddy Katana just said Sarah, the neighborhood D&D thug.
It's true.
That's awesome. That is a cool story. What was your first experiences like? I mean, obviously it didn't scare you off totally. So did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah. So I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, okay, well, it's me, so I got to be a ranger
Okay.
because I am a ranger.
Yes, you are.
And then I was like, half elf sound cool, and so I was this half elf ranger that had snakes, and that's all I can remember.
Oh, that's awesome though.
No.
I just played a game not long ago, one of my for a charity. My friend Jay Scott out there who's watching right now. What's up, Jay? Jay had a charity event and one of my players wanted to play a druid and his animal companion I decided was a giant snake. Well, they're going through this swamp and he's starting to collect snakes. He's like befriending all these snakes as he goes through there. It was so much fun. So it reminds me of your character a little bit.
That's kind of what happened to us. We were stuck in a swamp.
Oh
And
my God.
then and they were like, "Well, what makes sense?" Cuz I was like coming in, like there was like an existing thing, so I was like
Uh-huh.
coming in on it, and I was like, I'm from the swamp and I have snakes." And then yeah.
So you're the Mistress of Monsters. I've already dubbed it. That's a fact now. Nobody can take that ever away from you.
Oh,
I,
thank
I
you.
would make you a crown if I could right now, but I'm housebound. So,
It should have all teeth. That'd be sweet.
oh, that would be badass, wouldn't it?
Right?
Ooh, different kinds of teeth for different
Right?
monsters
Yeah.
too. That
Different
would
kinds of
be
teeth.
maybe make it like bone or sinew, the crown itself.
Yeah.
Ooh, that. Oh, and above it, because it's a little bit rotten, there could be like a halo of flies. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing. Yeah, and this all goes into like my retirement plan as a bog witch because that's all I've ever wanted to be. Yeah.
I just wrote about a bog witch. In fact, you know what? I take that back. You know what? One of the players that's playing in the artist game is playing a bog witch.
Yes.
So it's like a sisterhood you guys have.
Yeah, we're like linked.
I think you are. I think it's all one. I think you guys are all part of like this bog witch movement. But um, obviously you're interested in monsters. What do you find so compelling about monsters and the monstrous? What are some of your personal favorite D&D monsters? Both as a fan
The-
and as an artist.
yeah. Okay, so compelling, like what has always compelled me to monsters? I
Before
think
you
I
answer
was
that question, my friend Gaetano out there just said, I am now naming a bog witch Zara.
yes.
Zara.
Yes. I'm so excited about this.
We're all excited about this. I'm learning a lot about you, Sarah, that I didn't know before.
Give her the crown.
Oh well, the crown is happening.
Give her
The
the
crown
crown.
is happening.
Yes. Yeah, I don't I think I was born with the love of monsters. I don't remember a point where you know what? No, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to blame my dad. So, he introduced me to The Hobbit, the animated Hobbit,
Oh
way
yeah,
early. I was like 4. And Gollum, like, and he's like kind
mhm,
of like the toad
right.
version of Gollum,
Hmm.
my absolute favorite version of Gollum. And I'm like a 4-year-old being like, that guy's awesome.
He looked kind of like a bullywug, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has this like creepy little canoe and stuff like that. And I think that was the first monster I fell in love with, the animated 1977 Gollum.
Trivia question out there for all of you guys who are watching right now. The Bullywug was a Greyhawk monster originally, and it was designed by Luke Gygax. It was the very first contribution he ever had that was published in D&D, and it was in the Fiend Folio. So just so you guys know, there's a little bit of Bullywug history. And now, Sarah, I think I've outgeeked you just now. It's
A
your
bit,
job
yeah.
now to beat me on that one. So, okay, so what are your favorite monsters?
Oh, geez. That's really hard for me to pick.
Oh, just throw
Okay,
some
so
off the top of your head. Just like
okay,
just a quick three.
I will say, my gateway drug to all of this
Hmm.
was Todd Lockwood's
Oh,
Dragons.
oh yeah.
Todd Lockwood's Dragons in 3.5, was just absolutely
Draconomicon.
blew my mind. Yep.
Draconomicon. I've got it right
And
behind me
then I
right
want
now.
to say The
Mhm.
Troglodyte by Sam Wood, I think it
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, really good. Like any, I'm a sucker for scales. Like, so I'm like, ooh, lizard folk, ooh, troglodytes, anything, the bullywugs. Like, I'm all like reptile and amphibian,
And
Oh,
Shogun too.
um, Elithids. I always like them. They're super creepy.
But you like Shogun a lot too.
Oh yeah. Oh
I was
yes,
gonna
I
say.
played a Shagoan cleric
Yeah.
for our monster campaign. That was awesome.
I know. I knew you love those guys. Um,
Yep.
For those of you guys who don't know a little bit about Sam Wood that she just mentioned, Sam Wood was a contributor to D&D's second edition for a lot of Greyhawk products. This was in the black and white era when the art was really rough and TSR wasn't paying a whole lot of money at that point in time for artists. Uh, because of that, I think a lot of people have a weird impression of what Sam's art is like, and it's not. The stuff that you know of that he published in Greyhawk stuff for stuff like the Lost, I believe that Lysandrid, Crypt of Lysandrid was some of his art, for example. Don't don't judge his art based on that stuff. He is a totally different artist, and he's amazing. I think he just realized that he wasn't making a lot of money off of that. So I think that a lot of that was quick sketchy, and I don't think the format really shows off what he does very well. So if you guys want to investigate him, he's awesome. I tried to commission him not long ago myself, actually, and he's hard to reach, but
I think
um,
he's like booked up all the time now, I
he
think.
is booked up all the time anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
I follow. He's another guy I stalk on Facebook because that's part of your job as a publisher is you stalk artists
Yep.
and as a result, I've seen what he is kind of his timeline is like, and yeah, I don't think I could really afford him anyway. But um, so you got to hit me with these monsters. Wait, Shaw
But
again,
yep.
Illithid, stuff like that.
Yep. Let's see. Always been a fan of the bugbear.
Okay, bugbears.
Yep. Let's see. God, it's like I like them all, so I kind of just.
Now, are those as a fan or are those as an artist?
Oh, so that's a weird blend.
Uh huh.
For me, it's always kind of mixed together.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it's kind of hard to like. I kind of can't like one without the other a
I
little bit.
understand that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I'm the sort of the same way as a writer. You know, you like monsters that you feel like you can do something with. So, um,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm looking over here at some of the fan commentary over here. People are saying anything crossbred. My friend Gaetano says so. Hybrid monsters, I think, are his thing. Is what he's saying there. So that's pretty cool. I
Hybrid
want to talk a
monsters
little
are
bit about
awesome.
you as a designer too. Okay. One of we talk a lot about we just talked about fan, your background, and everything like that. But there's an art to not only drawing these monsters, but to their design as well. And I know this for a fact because one of the things I do for my patron is I do a monster of the month. So I'm beholden to come up with all these monsters every month, and I was telling you a little bit offline that one of the things I admire about you is your ability to capture the alien, step outside of what is conventional, and think totally off out, outside of humanity, and being informed by the things you see like that. You found you've got a kind of a niche. You're the Mistress of Monsters in the art community. You're no designer of monsters. Tell me a little bit about what your various inspirations are to monster design, but in nature. What are the things that the kind of things that you look at inside of that inside of nature that inspire you?
Okay. Um, so I think I got the question. So one of the things I always start off with is what it does.
Okay.
So is it fast? Is it slow? Does it swim? Does it fly? That kind of thing. And then the other thing, especially with monsters, is pretty quick after that. You have to think of how is it attacking. So, like, is it fast? And how does it attack when it's fast? Does it have tentacles, claws, mouth? Like, does it use its mouth? Does it have these other weird appendages, stuff like that? And then you would like pretty much its movement with focusing on of attacking because of the monster. And after that, it's kind of size, and then you think of environmental stuff. So, like, does it live in a cold place? So then it would need to have adaptations to help it live in a cold place.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Well, we look at monsters out there, and I brushed on this a little bit before, but I want to talk a little bit more in depth on this. As a designer, you look at a monster. Okay, I'm going to throw out one out there right off the bat, the catoblepus. Okay, um, obviously you see long neck creatures in between dinosaurs and giraffes and things like that in nature. But you look at a creature like the catoblepus, and it's pretty clear to me that that couldn't actually function. That's a fantastic creature, not really a creature that's rooted in any kind of science whatsoever,
Yeah.
when you're designing, what's the right blend that you're trying to strike between, hey, I'm gonna make this fantastic, or I'm gonna make this. Where? How do you define where you think is the right in your own personal aesthetic?
So I think a little bit of that is kind of like experience and a little bit like of like the nuance you gain with that. So you're gonna when you start off making creatures, you learn basically all the proportions of normal animals.
Hmm.
And then you're kind of like, all right, well, I know the proportions of normal animals. How far can I push and pull this before it gets too weird?
Okay.
Like one of the big pet peeves I've always had is back in the day when we were playing like God, muds online. Like people would be like, "Oh, I'm a dragon character and I'm 500 feet long," and I was like, "How are you gonna feed yourself? Where are you gonna
Exactly.
get all the calcium for your bones?" Like it just like there's certain limitations, and
Right.
you
That
can
heart must be the size of a house to get blood there.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, but like if you wanted to, you could figure that out. You could be like, all right, I live in the ocean, or the planet that I live on has different atmosphere or something. Like you could figure all these things out. But I think in order to do it, you have to work on it. You can't just be like, I'm a 500-foot dragon in Earth, and it's like,
So there's so you try and strike a blend between the two, and it's mostly just a blend based out of experience, then, right?
pretty much, yeah. It's like what you want to do is take something that's like kind of normal, and then you push it till you're like the edge of where it's like starting to get silly,
Hmm.
and then you might dial it back like a little bit, and that's usually where I put it.
Okay. I'm getting a really cool line of thought over here from my buddy Lamashtu out here in the audience. He mentioned at first mating strategy. And why does the animal look this way? How does its behavior make it more fit for passing genes? Is that ever come into your thinking?
Yes, actually, and some of those are the most fun designs
Okay, well tell us a little
because
bit about that.
yeah, because if you're designing a creature for that has like the all the mating stuff is basically I want to look fancy enough to attract a female.
Okay.
And you can get really wild with that. Like for Zero Drag, I made the Radiant Swamp Pig, and he has these big bright red cheek pouches that he can inflate. And he's got these little antennas that are bright blue, and so he can inflate his cheek pouches and flip the little blue antenna and hopefully impress a girl. And those
That's
are all
exactly how I used to do it in college, by the way.
exactly with the cheek pouches and their little antennas. Yeah.
Yeah, it also explains why I was not married until 33.
Yeah, but you waited for the right one. See, it's
That's right,
good.
that's right. Well,
Yeah,
she was so impressed by my cheek pouches.
yeah,
But
yeah. She was like, I need them.
well, you gotta remember she's Australian, so
But like, so the cheek pouches are because I knew about the red pouches on a frigate bird, and the little antennas were based off of a peacock spider, and then you put it all together on like this pig thing, and you have a radiant swamp pig. And yeah, and like all of the mating stuff is really cool because
okay,
you can do those wild things.
okay.
Like you can just be like, yeah, bright red, bright colors, crazy plumage.
Couple other things. Couple other things. I have a question over here. First of all, let me tell you, I always tell you how awesome you are. My friend Lamashtu goes, well, I'm notoriously uninterested in art, but Sarah won me over with this bit.
All right.
So you got you. Like I always tell you, but I also have another question. My friend Jason Zavoda. Jason, good to see you out there again, man. Um, Jason, by the way, is the architect of the Greyhawk Index, which is tells you it's probably the what I use most as far as a reference book. It tells me everywhere I need to go in every book to find a particular reference. It's a
Ooh.
Herculean effort that he's put forth on that, and it's just I can't tell out there the crowd enough how you guys just got to get a copy of that thing, man. It's so useful, especially if you plan on writing anything for publication. It's just awesome. I should probably give him. I should probably pay him royalties for that, for the use of that. But um, he mentioned, have you ever seen Pumpkinhead Bugbear? Have you ever heard of that?
Pumpkin. No, I've heard of Pumpkinhead, like the horror movie.
Yeah, I have never heard of Pumpkinhead Bugbear before.
Because okay, well, Pumpkinhead the horror movie is like one of my guilty pleasures. Like every Halloween, it's like I
Okay.
watch Pumpkinhead. So if there's a Pumpkinhead bugbear out there, I gotta get a link or something.
Yeah, I'll ask him. I've never heard of this before. This is kind of interesting to me. I mean, I'm imagining this bugbear walking around that got drunk on cheap grog one day, fell into a pumpkin patch, and a pumpkin was smashed over his head, and he's blindly wandering around the countryside as some kind of monster now. So,
That would be amazing.
well, I guess. Oh wait, oh, it's the original monster. It's the original bugbear. Made miniatures of it.
Really?
Whoa, Jason, this is a revelation to the Mistress of Monsters and to me. I've never heard of this. So,
We must know more.
well, this, yeah, we must research this together. The Pumpkinhead bugbear. That's pretty awesome. Oh wait, okay, there it is. So going back to monsters. I could talk about Pumpkinhead bugbear all day now that I've just created a backstory for him.
Yeah.
One thing I want to do for the crowd out there, and I want to do like a little bit of a monster design workshop.
Okay.
Okay, between you and me, what I'm going to do is we're going to come up with some. I'm going to give you a couple basic keywords, and I want you to help me through how you would design a creature based on these keywords. And when we come to different places in the design where we can have options, I want to solicit opinions from the crowd out there. So everybody out there in Twitchland, please make sure that you give me some ideas. Um, right away, does anybody have anybody feel like throwing out there? Do you guys want an avian? Would you like a aquatic monster, or would you like something terrestrial? We've got a heart right now from my friend Gaetano. He's with this. And aquatic. My friend Little Monster
Aquatic.
goes aquatic. Well, that's good because that's Sarah's specialty.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk aquatic
That's my
monsters.
favorite.
Where's your first step with aquatic monster?
Okay, so if we're doing
Oh, we
aquatic
have another
monster,
keyword. Alien.
okay, alien. Okay, awesome. That's like zero drag. Um,
We're gonna finish on zero drag.
no, it's just like it's great. So this is like right up my alley. Okay, so are we doing like basically? Are we thinking shark? Are we thinking like a dinosaur thing, like a plesiosaurus? Are we thinking like a mammally kind of thing, like a primitive whale, like when they were kind of like wolves and they were like swimming, or
Oh, okay.
are we thinking like a fish, like just like like a marlin or something? So like
All right.
what do you guys want?
All right. Well, let's see what the keywords we get out here are. Uh, I know if nobody else has an opinion, I know which way I want to go. But tiger mammal like is what I got.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna be basing that like on the ancestry of the whale. So
Okay.
if you're not familiar with that, they started off whales. All our whales currently started off as like these wolf-like animals that left the land and went into the sea, and over millions of years evolved into whales. So we're gonna assume that this is basically that, but with a tiger.
Okay.
So this tiger has left the land and is now going into the sea. And so now he needs to be able to hunt and to survive in the water.
Okay.
So I would say that we definitely have to shift the nose up for sure. So
Okay.
breathing on the top. We got to get a lot longer. And we have to do now. I think we
Why
should do
would
something.
he elongate?
Oh, because it makes it easier for him to move in the water.
Oh, okay. So it's a hydrodynamic
Yep.
thing. Okay.
Yeah. And here's a bit that I'm kind of thinking would be cool is I'm thinking that so a whale, like his flipper has the fingers in the flipper.
Okay.
Still, it's just covered with like there's no separations anymore.
All right.
I'm thinking we should keep the separations at the end and have them be claws
Oh.
still. So for our attacking portion, so he can have a claw and a bite.
Okay. I got a question. How intermediate is this going to be?
How intermediate?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what my buddy is asking here right now. Oh, by the way, while he's explaining what he means by that question, just so you guys all know, at the end of all this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a stat block on the creature that we're creating. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to send it out to everybody here who's watching or anybody who wants it. So It'll be a lot of fun. We can do some interactive play that way. Between early move to the water and well evolved is what he's
Oh,
asking.
I think we're gonna be like kind of spot in the middle because that's
Okay.
probably gonna be the weirdest looking.
Okay. Okay. So we have the nose up, and that's
Yep.
done so it can breathe.
Yep.
You said. Okay. What happened to the mouth exactly? Is it still there or?
Yeah, so with the whale, it just became a lot longer and had a ton of teeth
Okay.
in it. Now with the tiger, I think we should go with it kind of the same way, but keep the huge canines.
All right.
Because the whale, it went and all the teeth became all the same size. They all became like tiny. So let's for the monstrous portion, it'll be like a long jaw with a whole bunch of teeth, but let's keep the big like cat canines.
Okay. What kind of prey would it have?
I definitely think it would be going for something like fat rich, like whatever version of seal
Okay.
lives there.
Okay. So this is a predatory creature then.
Oh, definitely, yeah,
Okay.
definitely, because it's like tiger based.
All
So
right.
I'm thinking like it's on its way to becoming like an orca,
Okay.
a predatory whale. It's the whole thing. It's just going to be death in the water.
Let's talk about coloration and its fur. What happened to the fur and what kind of coloration are we talking about?
I definitely think we should get rid of the fur. Well, actually, we could go with seal like fur too,
Okay.
because like this could be the
Well, tell me
like
about
kind of.
seal-like fur a little bit because aquatic is a little bit of my weakness.
Oh, okay. Okay. So seal fur is like super super dense,
Okay.
like crazy dense. Like I want to say it's like like it's something like insane, like 1 million furs per square inch, or yeah, something like with like a fur seal. And it's so dense that like the water kind of can't even hit their skin.
And
And
that's
it
why it's so prized as by.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And that's how they stay warm.
All right.
Because and actually no, now I'm thinking about it, I like this more because it can have less blubber and it can have the nice thick fur, so it can be faster.
Okay.
Yep. And so I think let's go with the fur, and we're gonna do a white belly because that's the counter shading. Have you heard about that?
Oh, so when something looks up at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like all
I
sharks.
only know that from being in the Air Force. It's what
Oh,
we
do
do
you
with
really?
planes.
That's awesome. That makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah.
But like that's why sharks have white bellies is when they look up, you kind of can't see
Okay.
them.
And orcas too.
Yeah, orcas too.
Hmm.
Yep, and they have the dark on the top because the same thing.
You know
Like
what?
you
Now
look
that you
down.
mention that, I can actually see that in quite a few animals. Rays have that too.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yeah. It's in the ocean, that's like tops. They all go for that.
Okay.
And in the deep sea, they do it with bioluminescence. That's how they that's how they get around.
Is
The
our guy going to have bioluminescence or not?
Probably not because it's
Okay.
not deep. Unless like they really really wanted it and then we can
No,
have it.
no, no. We're going to get to some more design forks here in the road, I'm sure. But I think bioluminescence, you're right. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this guy.
Yeah, unless it's like a deep sea one, but if it's hunting like kind of whatever their version of seals are, it's going to be kind of on the top.
Okay.
Um, and let's see. Okay, yeah, so let's go with the fur, and I think taking keeping a version of the tiger stripes, probably not exactly tiger stripes, but some type of striped pattern would make sense. Tiger sharks still have it. Whale sharks still have like the patterning, the breaking up of the body silhouette is always smart in the water.
The Amanda, my wife, another mistress of monsters, clearly, she said that stripes would be great camo in a kelp forest.
Yes,
So that makes a lot of
totally.
sense.
Yeah,
Okay, so
and also,
we got the stripes.
yep.
What kind of coloration of the stripes are dark? The belly's white. What is in between the stripes to differentiate it? What color are we talking about?
I would say I would go with probably like light gray and charcoal gray.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you wanted to get and here's like the thing with colors, you can get really crazy with monsters too. Like as long as like you could have it be light green and dark green if you wanted it to live in a kelp forest,
Right.
you
My
know?
my friend Lamashu goes, it's also just badass and sexy for mates. He is big into monster reproduction, so I'm learning something
Hey,
about my friends
it's im-
too through this chat. So that's pretty cool.
it's
Um,
important.
let's talk about how it does attract mates.
How would it attract mates? Okay, we can give it something. Let's
Okay.
see. What can we give it? What can we give it? Because mammals is interesting. Mammals don't usually have traits like that unless you're talking about like deer and they have big antlers. But we don't want that in our aquatic creature.
Well, I think to myself, when I think to myself about animals that are aquatic that attract mates, I'm a big stingray guy and or a ray guy, and I know that a lot of them they breach, and they think that the reason that they breach is so when they hit the water it attracts. I've
Oh.
read that, so
Oh,
maybe
okay. I got it. All right. So this is what we'll do. We'll have the fins, the flippers that
okay,
have like the kind of claws at the end, and
okay,
then like here, like where his lats are gonna be,
uh huh.
he'll have like an extra bit of skin, and so when he goes down, it makes a bigger splash.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Okay, so when they hunt, are they hunting prey actually in the water, or are they actually breaching out and like how some orcas do on the land, grab a seal and pluck it right back in the water? What are we
Because
talking
that's
about with
more
this?
scary. I think we should go with that for
Yeah,
sure. So
especially to
like they're gonna be able
adventurers.
to like put their you know how sea lions can kind of like hold themselves up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So maybe these guys can kind of like, and orcas can do that too. The orca pectoral fins are really strong, so they won't be in too danger to being was it
Somebody
eat.
mentions over here about sound, with the creature. Is there a sonic component here at all, or like does it make any noises? Does it have a song? Does it have any kind of echolocation? Does it have uh,
That's a really cool idea. So what we could do is so we're gonna have the longer snout with the big canine teeth on the front, like a tiger, and
mhm.
they'll have the nose that's kind of like drifting up because we're not it's not like fully on the back of the head. It's still kind of on its journey back there because
Okay.
we're in an interim. And then after the nose, we could have like a couple lumps, and those could be the thing like the organs that does the echolocation, so it'll be indicated as like a bump on the skull, which would be right behind the nostril.
Maybe it could have evolved from its roar too, and it does something. It's a little bit different, from the tigers or the purring or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
uh,
that don't know, that's a really good idea because I mean like if you have dolphins, they like have all these sorts of clicks and stuff,
right.
so yeah, I could totally see that.
Another question: Does it have some kind of? Would it have some kind of electroreceptors? Does that
If
sound
it if it does, and I totally could, it would be along its lateral line.
okay? Where? Why
So,
would it be there?
and it could be on the nose too. Because okay, so if we're gonna go with what we have in existence now, so we have these little things called elephant fish, which you should Google. They're amazing. You can have them in an aquarium. They have a little snout, and they have electroreceptors on the end of their snout, and they have electroreceptors along their lateral line, and that's just kind of where fish have them.
Okay.
um, and electric eels, I want to say, have them on the lateral line too. They might have more receptors than that as well. They might have them all over their skin, but I'd have to look that up to be double sure. So, if we wanted to do electroreceptors, it might make more sense to put it right at the tip of the nose so it could use that while it's hunting. Like, so if it was like kind of sniffing around the rocks or something like that, it could feel the electric currents. Like, because what those do is they pick up the electric currents of like a fish or a prey item, and that's how that works. That's how they find it. So, yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, this thing is really frightening, and I just thought of something. Tigers have a really evolved sense of smell, so maybe that electroreceptor has something to do
Yeah.
with, yeah, it came from something like that. Now, this guy right over here that we've got here, this horrific predator that we have here, um, it's it evolved from an air breather. How does it breathe? Is it still an air breather, or is it amphibious, or what is it exactly? How does it breathe?
I think we would still have to go with like air breather still. So like a seal.
Okay.
Yeah. So it can hold its breath for a really, really long time.
Oh, okay. So
Um
no blowhole or anything like that.
no, no, like so it's got the nostrils are kind of journeying back, so
Okay.
no blowhole yet. We're in the interim period. So it
Okay.
still has to come up seal like, but it can hold its breath for quite some time.
Okay, that's cool. And I almost am envisioning the way the head is like that, almost like a snorkel kind of, I guess a little bit. Maybe that's how. or is it just lung capacity?
With this, I'm imagining it's big.
Okay. How big are we
So,
talking?
well, let's see. A tiger is like 500 pounds,
About
I think.
5 to 8,
Yeah,
depending on male,
yeah,
female, in captivity or not.
yeah.
Cats are
You
my
know,
thing.
yeah. Cats are. I'm torn because I don't know if it's that big yet. So let's go half orca size because orca's like 24 feet long,
Okay, so we're talking about
I
a
think.
12-foot long.
Yeah, let's do 12-foot long. So
Okay.
it's not quite a whale
From
yet.
head to tail, usually that you're talking about 8 to 9 feet for your tiger.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
yeah, okay, that works for me. What's happened with its tail? Somebody just asked me. Is it a dorsal fin maybe now?
Yeah, see, that's the thing that we could discuss actually. So we can go with the typical mammal tail is like it swims like this, like up and down, and fish are like this.
Uh-huh.
So we could do the dorsal fin like a whale, so it would swim like that. The other thing we could do, because it's a monster, is we could have it swim like it's an iguana. Have you ever seen
Ooh.
an
Ooh.
iguana swim? So we could make it have the tail that goes like this, but it uses its body like this in the water, kind of. So I don't know how people want to go.
One of our fans just said Thresher Stark shark style.
Okay, so that's the this way, the back and forth.
Okay, yeah, Thresher Stark style. Or give it tentacles. You can't go wrong with tentacles.
That's true. That's like
Spelled
the
like they
sort of
do in
vibe.
hentai. I don't know what that means though. Um,
Of course, of course.
yeah, as far as you know. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, we've got some tentacles here, or we've got the threshers. This guy is pretty badass. Now we've decided that he's going to be alien. Okay, what kind of weirdness, if he's not weird enough already, what kind of weirdness? It would be environmental, I guess, right? So,
Yeah.
what kind of alien world, guys, do you guys want to do? I mean, just give me like a trait of an alien world that we can throw on this bad boy and wrap him up. While we wait for everyone's discussions on this, I can't wait to write the stat block on this guy. He's going to be awesome. He's
This
going to
guy's
be
gonna
really
be this
awesome.
guy's gonna be mean.
He is going to be mean, and I shudder to think about the poor PCs that are going to have to meet this dude out there. And since no one has gotten with me anything right now, I'm gonna be the first one to say it. I'm gonna throw out two traits for an alien world: heavy gravity and methane lake or methane ocean.
Methane ocean. That's like Titan, right?
Yep.
Is that the
And
Titan?
that's sort of why I threw it out there, is because we're thinking about colonizing Titan. So
Right, right. God, what did they for Titan? What did they do for that? Because I
somebody just
saw
says,
that.
somebody just gave me, I demand a full ecology of article on this guy. All
Oh,
right.
oh no.
Hey, it's what I do. So okay, we got heavy gravity, methane. What are we gonna do with him?
I think that's going to be tricky because if we got heavy gravity and methane, then they're going to be internal things that have to happen.
Okay,
Like
well,
his
what kind
bones,
of internal things are gonna have to happen with him?
like I think his bones are going to have to be denser. I
Okay,
think he's going to have like maybe higher like bigger origin insertion points on his muscles, more dense muscle tissue.
help me out here for just a second. Tell me about insertion points on the muscles.
Oh, okay. So like
I'm an engineer, not a doctor. Damn it.
so every muscle in the body has an origin and an insertion point on a bone, usually. So um, an origin is where the tendon attaches the muscle to the bone, and the insertion is where the tendon ends. So
Okay.
like you're gonna have like your origin is a tendon, and then you have your bicep, and then the insertion is where it ends on the
Okay.
radius. You know.
Yes, out there, my crowd. Before you even say it, I'm gonna preempt you. Insertion point. No, we're not talking about hentai anymore. Get your minds out of the gutter. Okay, now
Yeah, I
continue.
know anatomy terms.
Okay, so we've got the insertion point.
So basically, what what it could be is he could be kind of beefy. Like he could look kind of jacked. If you wanted him to be like, okay, he lives in this place that's like super dense, he could look kind of bulky. But at the same time, if he's evolved to live there, he might just look kind of like sleek, like a normal tiger, because his body has evolved to live there.
Right, and also with stuff like methane, ocean, you're talking about a higher density than water. So, well, depending, I mean, depending on the temperature, but if we're talking about Titan, you're talking about basically a slush situation there, half
Yep.
frozen methane. So he's going to have to be sleek in order to power his way through there. I would
Right
think.
through the
I don't think
slush.
musculature would be as helpful as sleekness as hydrodynamics.
Oh, so then it might be cool if we added, if we were going to go for hydrodynamics, then it might be cool to do some fins like along the top of him to help with like the, keeping him hydrodynamic.
Okay.
So like a marlin type fin.
Oh, cool. Cool. All
Yeah.
right, so we've got the marlin type fin going on there, and we've got the normal tail. We're going sleek on that. Um, let's talk about what kind of adaptations you would have in order to breathe the methane, and what kind of a base on a body would be able to do that.
Breathe the methane. So since nothing can breathe methane, as far as I know, on Earth,
No.
um, we can really make that up. And
Well, actually, there's been a little bit of study on that. If you had something like a cadmium or a cobalt-based life form, they might be able to do that. So maybe what we're going to do is, and this will play into that. If we went with a cobalt-based life form, that could inform the blue, kind of the deep blue that you were talking about on the coloration.
yeah,
So
that's
we've
what you
got a
could do.
blood, and also that would thicken the blood up to the degree where it would be able to handle that water, the temperature a lot better.
Right, right.
So,
And there was one of the creatures I did, like they had they can swim really deep, so their coloration is very ruddy because their blood can hold a lot of oxygen in it. So that would make sense. His pigment on the fleshy parts of him could be more blue rather than more red.
okay, okay, cool. Well, we have ourselves a pretty interesting monster right there for our workshop. Sarah, that was awesome. Thank you
Oh,
for
thanks.
thanks for guiding us through that, man. We got a horror here on our
Yes.
hands. I can't wait to stand him up. Um, Anybody out there? Oh, and somebody mentions, and when you blow up the creature, it's a dirty bomb. So yeah, I guess so.
So be careful.
Yeah, I guess you have to be careful when you fight him too. So
Yeah.
anybody out there in the crowd have anything else guys want to ask Sarah about art or monsters or her background or um, the last thing I want to talk about before we sign off is I want to talk a little bit more about Zero Drag Murder Mouth. Tell me now that we've designed our monster, our horrific monster. Tell me about Zero Drag Murder Mouth. I need to
Oh,
know everything there is to know about it.
okay. So essentially, what you just saw me do is the entire book. And I will pick a planet and I'll kind of make rules for the planet. And then I always make a shark like creature, a creature that the shark like creature eats, and then a humanoid like creature that like lives in this world. So the one that I just did has these huge, the planet is essentially a giant brackish mangrove swamp system. So I kind of took like Amazonian influences and mangrove influences, and based on those rules, I make creatures that fit in. So the shark, I based that off of like a bull shark and how he can swim up the rivers, and then I was like, oh, let's add some hippo into him to make him more terrifying. Let's add some python into him. Um, and then I did the the radiant swamp pig I already talked about with the like the puffs and the little tentacle, the the antennas. And then the humanoid creature there, I went and I did combine herons and fish
Oh,
because I wanted them to be a creature that kind of like lived in this mangrovey area. And I was like, okay, maybe like a heron fish humanoid thing could work. So it's a creature development book, and what I do is I start off sketching them, like just really simple pencil sketches, and then do some full-fledged concept art and go all the way up until I sculpt them fully in their like a 3D model, and I do the render stuff like that. And then of course there's all the story involved with it. I have the scientists kind of recording their mishaps or fortunes as they go through,
How many
and
different scientists do we have?
six.
And how
And
many different monsters do we have?
so let's see. There's six chapters, and every chapter has three monsters, so that's 18. And then
Mhm.
we've got the six scientists on top of that.
Okay.
You get a ton of art because every monster to develop it, I usually do about three-ish rounds of concept art, which could have like five pictures in each about, and then I'll do the sculpt afterwards.
That's so awesome. And tell us about the sculpts. Exactly what are you going to do with them, and tell us about what we can expect to see from them.
Oh, so this is my new thing, and it's going to be super exciting. So I learned to 3D print my models. So now I'm gonna 3D. So when I make a new creature, I'm gonna 3D print him, and then I'll make a mold, and then I'm gonna be able to make resin kits. So you guys will be able to like put them together and paint them. So they're gonna be larger size game miniatures. And if I can, I might even do some smaller ones. I have a really good resin printer. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm
That,
really excited for resin kits for Zero Drag. They're gonna be like about this big to start, and we'll see if we can get smaller.
okay. That's cool. By the way, our monster of the crowd out there named it. The monster is now called the Soralos, which
I
is, I
love it.
think, a portmanteau of our names, Sarah
I
and
love.
Los. So it's a Soralos.
Okay, it's good.
So that's what we're gonna call it. And when I stand it up, that's what its name is gonna be.
Perfection.
Um, for those of you guys that missed part of the beginning of the chat, I am going to personally support Zero Drag Murder Mouth as well as helping finance it through Sarah's Patreon. Which again, I'm going to throw up a link to Sarah's Patreon again, just so everybody can see it. Um, that's mine. Excuse me. Sorry about that, Sarah.
It's
But
all good.
there we go. Um, my plan is to write an adventure based on her some of the stuff that she writes on Zero Drag Murder Mouth. I'm going to do a D&D adventure so you guys can interact with some of these monsters. I'm just going to get input directly from the author and the designer over here, Sarah. All I'm going to do is I'm going to be a stat monkey, and I'm going to create a little bit of a plot for it. And also, Sarah and I have talked a little bit about me doing some stat blocks for some of the Zero Drag Murder Mouth creatures. So
Yeah, I'm
hopefully,
really excited about that actually.
yeah, hopefully I can provide some statistical support for it, and who knows what fruit that could bear in the future. So I'm really excited to be contribute to it in my own little way, which is really just mostly Sarah. I think the fans out there have gotten a chance to see who you are and see what you bring to the table, how unique what you do is, and you're doing something out there that not a lot of people can do or are doing. And that means that you bring a very unique and particular value to the table that I think is really exciting.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it's something that it's really why I wanted to highlight you tonight. I mean, as one of the visitors to our chat just came in here and was like, I think they were confused a little bit about what the chat's about. You know, that it's not really a first edition chat. Well, yeah, that's true. Usually, what I do is I'm all about first edition, and I bring in old Greyhawk people and things like that. But in particular, what you're doing right now is very exciting, and I want to highlight the idea that monsters in the game are very important to D&D and our culture. Really, it's informed our the art that we've had through Dungeons and Dragons has informed our modern mythology. And if anybody is on the cutting edge of that, Sarah, it's you right now.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank
what
you.
you're doing right now because it's so unique. It's going to revolutionize the way people are going to look at monster design, and it's going to be one of those things that you could have people in 15 years talking about the Soralos and wondering about how it got
Yes.
created, and wondering about hey, have you ever seen that creature before, man? That thing is scary as hell. Oh yeah, I had 3 PCs eaten by at one point in time. Who was the guy who came up with the idea that it should have stripes on it? Who was the one that had the idea? Electroreceptors, things like that. So this is one of these things that from tiny acorns mighty oaks do grow, and I'm glad that our viewers got a chance to see what you're doing. and what you bring to the table. You're one of my dearest friends out there in the RPG industry, but you're also a super talented person. So we're going to go ahead and we're getting ready to sign off, everybody, unless anyone's got any final questions for Sarah. Um, let's see. Okay. Oh, I see what he's saying. Uh, Parsing words with me a little bit. He was just wondering about, or she, I'm not really sure. Uh, 1E D&D. I was referring to AD&D, first edition, is what I'm referring to. Someone is asking me if you're familiar with the works of Dougal Dixon.
Dougal Dixon. I not. I don't know what are the works.
I don't know. He's asking me right now, and
Dougal
I'm not really sure.
Dixon.
I'm not familiar with them myself. So,
I am
uh,
not.
I never another person out here is asking, saying I've always he wrote a book called After Man, but
Oh yes, yes, I am. I didn't. I don't. I didn't know the name, but the Afterman
okay.
thing. Yes. Yep.
Uh,
A little bit.
Basically, what the animals would evolve into after we died off. Well, that's really cool. I didn't. I'm gonna have to check that out. I didn't know anything about that. Lamashu, even though I worked at a Barnes and Noble, he's probably better read than I am. He also mentioned that he's calling me to task for dogging him out about his love of Planescape. Not only did I never dog you out about your love of Planescape, but yes, I not only have the box set over here, but I actually have a couple of the monstrous compendiums. So come on now. Come on now. It's all research information. Come on. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it out there. Sarah, you were a great guest. Anyone out there who wants to go ahead and contribute to our Patreon, I encourage you guys to do so. As you guys, Zero Drag is a really, as you can see, is a super exciting, very unique project. And as she said, it's totally funded by the Patreon. So if you guys want to join that and contribute to it, you can. And if you guys are interested in the tabletop events that I was talking about earlier, you know, like I said, it's you're not really contributing as much to their companies. You're also contributing to your own convention experience. If you guys like to go out there and do the convention things, supporting them through the Facebook group and the link I have up right now, or in the through their Con of Champions, participating and running games in that. It's the way that they're going to stay alive and in business. So it's really important that we go ahead and, as a community, I think it's important that we support those guys. Sarah, is there anything else you want to tell our guests before we sign off?
No, just thanks for having me, and this was really fun.
Oh
So
man,
hope
it
you
was
guys had a good
awesome.
time.
It was awesome. All right, guys. Sarah, if you'll stay after for just a moment after we go ahead
Sure.
and sign off for the evening so I can say my personal goodbyes. But everybody out there, thanks for watching caslTawk. We had a great show over there, and whatever you guys do, watch out for the Soralos.
Oh.